Welcome back to TimeOut with the Sports Doctor podcast, where life, sports, and medicine intersect. We're very glad that you continue to support this podcast. You can get the information on any platform where podcasts are played, as well as getting the video content on YouTube. But if you want to just get one place to find all the content, go to my website at DrDerrick.com, and you will find everything on that website. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. All right, so welcome to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast, and we have another very interesting guest for you today, Mr. DeVentri Jordan. He is introduced to me by Troy Jones, who you know was on the podcast a couple of weeks back, another person in the sports performance and training space, so very glad to have you here.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you taking the time to have me on, man. It's an honor and a blessing.
Absolutely. So he wears a lot of hats. You know, he's a husband, a father,
yes,
as well as the CEO. Let's not leave out husband, father, and Christ follower, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
The founder and CEO of Game Face Training. So
I
don't know exactly everything he's doing right now, but we're going to learn together. And I'm really excited to hear about his platform and the way that he's impacting not only sports, but men and women in general.
Yeah. No, thank you, man. I started out, I'm from the state of Minnesota. Grew up in North Minneapolis, single-family household. Attended St. Cloud State, got my undergrad in Human Development and Family Studies. Took an internship after college with Under Armour and did some Combine 360 stuff with them, which led into me, working with a company called Bike Tech, which got me on the IMG campus. From there, spiraled off to me watching training and sports and what people were doing. And I'm like, I got to do this, man. I could do this. I could run that play. So I have some guys, some strength coaches in my life that, helped me out a lot and kind of showed me the way, and to being a performance coach. And slowly after about 2 days of traveling so much across the country, training athletes, I moved back to Minnesota, man. I had a nice car at the time. I didn't have much money in my bank account. I'm sitting at the kitchen table, with my family, my son and my wife. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life next, and it's hard when you're speaking from a position where you ain't got nothing, right? I ain't got much, but I got a nice car. So my wife was like, "You're gonna be a performance coach, duh. You know how to train." And I'm like, "Man, how I'm gonna do it?" So I walked outside and sold my car, sold my BMW. So I had a BMW 750i. Back then, 2012, I was rolling. What? I was rolling. Sold my car and bought a Subaru Tribeca, a little crossover truck. And took the rest of the money, bought some equipment off eBay, and I started training my son's AAU basketball team. At the time, he's playing traveling basketball, and I started training that team, and they got really, really well. People started taking notice, and it's amazing how it's just a spiral effect. One thing led to another thing, led to another thing, led to another thing, led to another thing. And I think, it just got beyond me. Because I'm always saying to myself, hey, I just want to make enough money to train, to pay my bills. But God had a different vision for me. And age of 36. This time I'm 32. I went back and got my master's kinesiology. I'm the oldest dude in school, right? I'm looking at everybody. I got kids, they fresh out of college and go right and get their masters. I'm trying to juggle work, get my masters. So that's a whole different story. We can talk about that in a different episode. Yeah. But I just evolved, man. The business and the brand has evolved. And like you said, I wear so many hats. And sometimes when you wear so many hats, you drop the ball in a lot of places. And so I found myself early on in my career of just dropping the ball so much, right? Being too controlling, trying to dictate too much, and not letting people flow in their natural gift of what they need to be in. It caused me to get evicted out of one of my major spaces early on, which really broke my heart. And at that time, I really saw who was really there for me, right? I was helping so many other people, and when they found out I got evicted, I was losing my space. So many people just walked out of my life.
Yeah.
Naturally. And a lot of my competition was really happy. But at the time for me, it was really a defining moment for me. Because it wasn't the training that was bad, right? Yeah. The training has always been great. It was just me as a business person, right? I let the vision get past me. So I got evicted, took a couple months off. We ended up getting so the space I got evicted from was about 12,000 square feet. Took a couple months off. Had to take a break. I ended up getting into a space about 3,500 square feet. And the place was magical, man. We got into that space and we changed so many lives. I'm talking about, dude, like if 50 D1 players came out of Minnesota, we have 40 of them. That's how many athletes we were training. Got into that space, man, and it was magical. All of a sudden, this is about 2019. And, in 2020, COVID hits.
Right
before COVID, my little brother that I raised passed away in January. Then COVID hits right like that February, March. So it shut us completely down. So I'm in that space. I'm finally making a little money. COVID shuts us down. My brother passes away. And I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life after that. Somebody that close to me passes away, that's been with me my whole life, that I raised. Spiritually, as a man of God, it was really a testing moment for me as my faith. Went on a fast and hiatus. COVID shut us down, so I didn't train anytime. I sat down for those couple months, and I really just reflected on not who I needed to be, but where God wanted me to be. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Shortly after we opened back up, in the state of Minnesota, we had like a 4-person minimum at our facility. I'm like, I got to make some money. We open now, and I didn't want to turn kids away because for me, it's ministry work.
Right.
Got contacted by Lifetime, and then, sat down, and the rest is history. So now we have a national partnership with Lifetime that we've been with for 3 years and been able to expand across the country.
Wow.
Hence is why we're in Florida. So right now I'm in my office in Minnesota. Yeah, that's just what we're doing, man. It's a great thing, dude. We got some great coaches. I got great managers, and we're probably one of the only performance training companies I feel like around the country that has a true performance progression where all of us work from the same platform seamlessly.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And, that's what I love about this podcast so much. I told you we were going unscripted, right?
Yeah.
And your message alone, you've already given me so much to chew on, because there's somebody that's bought in completely now to this interview because they just heard that you lost it all, right? And then you had to build it back up from nothing. And now you're larger than you ever could imagine being. So
it was so bad. I was to a point where it was so bad, like it was so bad. I was in court. I was in the courthouse. I remember I was at the court with the landlord's attorney, and it was a profound moment for me because I owed like 70, 80,000 in back rent, right? Yeah. So my space was a lot, and so what I did was I sold my car, I wiped out my bank accounts. I came with a cashier's check ready, right? And he said, DeVentri, you're a good guy. Even if you give us this money, we're still going to evict you. Take the money, try to pay some off some of your debt, and just go.
Wow.
And in my mind, I didn't want to do that because I'm worried about what everybody else is going to think about me.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I can. So my pride started kicking in. No, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make it work. No, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And at the time, I'm getting like emails from payday loans because I took out a bunch of payday loans also. The loans where you get $20,000, but they're deducting $200 or $300 a day from your account.
Right.
Those high interest loans.
You'll never catch up.
Bro, I had like 10 of them. So like for me to make any money, I had to make about $1,000 a day just to break even. So I had a bunch of NSFs, a bunch of just stuff that were just taking out my account. So I tried to pay a lot of that stuff off, and I had to put my equipment in storage. I had to save some money to get my other space. Well, dude, I was in a bad place. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was that what I didn't know, God knew.
Yes.
Me being evicted and going to the bottom like that was really a reflection point of my faith in God, because I never lost faith. Even going through that, when my brother died, I didn't lose faith. It just was a realignment of my vision and where he needed me to be.
Yeah.
So I just had to realign my goals all over again and say, God, like, I just have to fully submit to what you want me to do. And once I started submitting to him, my whole life changed.
Yeah. And I want to point out something too. So as you mentioned in the beginning, you had a 750i, right? You didn't have much else, but you had a 750i. Talk about how your priority has shifted now, because I know that feeling. When I first came out, I drove a Range Rover. I had the fancy shoes. I was a doctor. I got this paycheck. So I had to live to a certain standard. Now my wife and I, we laugh. We'll walk by the shoe stores. We'll walk by Louis Vuitton, whatever. You show me a multifamily home. Let's talk about that. You can keep your purses, keep your fancy cars, keep all that. Let's talk now about how we can invest and grow this. So how has your just perspective shifted after going through losing everything, having to give it up and then growing it back?
So now it's about value and perspective and about alignment. It's about sustainability. So
Yeah,
like for me, I got some nice things, right?
sure,
I don't
sure.
have the nicest house, but I got a great home for me, right? And it's about what I need, not what I want. Do I want $1 million in my bank account? Everybody does. I have it now, and I don't need it now. And like for me, I drive a nice car, but it took me 6, 7 years to get a nice car, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we do is social media portrays this vision for us to try to keep up with the Joneses. And half the people on social media don't even own the stuff they got anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's perception. Hey, I'm driving this new Bentley truck. I got the new Escalade IT, but you live in an apartment building.
I'm
You don't even
successful.
own a home,
Right. Yeah.
right? You work a normal job making $60,000 a year, but you want to drive an Escalade, but you don't got nothing. And I think now, like, if I'm talking about culturally, we have to get to a place of owning what we have, and not living beyond our means and having 6 months in the bank account to pay your bills, right? And not buying every pair of Jordans that come out, you know, every month because it's a new drop and you got 10 pairs sitting there. We don't need to do that stuff.
Number one, consumers.
Number one, but if you're gonna spend money, spend it on education, spend on bettering yourself as a person, spend on bettering your family, spend it on bettering your business. I sit on the board of Men's Health, and I talk to the guys all the time, to new people, about starting your own business, like find tax write-offs, find deductions, find different ways to like not manipulate the system, but do what rich people are doing that they don't tell us what to do.
Right.
Invest in you.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. So talk about the Men's Health. I saw that you are, part of the Men's Health
Mhm.
magazine.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
us
I'm on
about
their
that.
advisory
Yeah.
board, so it's cool. It's kind of cool. They call me as Eb, who's the guy who got me on there. I'm on their diversity and inclusion council. So they do a strength and diversity every year, where they get personal trainers that are different colors, and they take them and help them start their own business. They help them get like CSC certified, and I'm one of the speakers and one of the board people that mentor these guys and girls through the process. How to start your own LLC. What does it look like? What type of business should you have? Should you work inside of a gym? Should you start your own business and get your own space? So I sit on this board where I'm mentoring and guiding them. And then another facet that I do is I help produce articles for them. So like, what's the best fitness equipment out there that you should buy? What's the best equipment that you should put in a small box gym? What's the best dumbbells that I should have? What's a good speed progression for a basketball player, for a football player? So I do things like that.
And how did that, you mentioned you making these protocols and that your gyms are located in different areas, but they're all following the same protocols. So
Yes,
talk a
sir.
little bit about that, because that's very unique. Generally, if you go to whatever the name of the gym is, you find a trainer, you hope they're qualified, you hope that they know what they're doing, and you just have to trust them. But talk about the programming that you have in your gyms. If you're enjoying this episode, don't wait to the end to share it. Share it now. Share this with a friend or a colleague that you think might find value in this information. And then also make sure that you click and leave us a 5-star review and give us feedback, because we really value your feedback and your input. Now back to the episode.
Well, being like, for us, we're family, right? The one biggest thing that I saw that CrossFit had, I don't like the workouts, but what CrossFit does is the community.
Buy-in.
And I said, how do we create the community and the buy-in to get these athletes to do what we need them to do? First, I have to get the coaches to do what I need them to do, right? And to drink the Kool-Aid. So what we do is we don't try to bring in too experienced people. We bring in kids from college and we make them intern. So before you can be one of our performance coaches, like, you have to give us your time first before I give you my time. So we make you go through hundreds of hours of internship hours to learn our platform. And we have an internship program that we put you through. And then you have to do a test out. Then based off that test out, we hire you and train you into our plyometric progressions, our movement progressions, our strength progressions, to get you to where you need to be at. And it's always evolving. Because every year, everything is changing. There's a new piece of equipment that comes out. There's a new workout that comes out. There's something that comes out where we have to be in that cutting edge, right? And also, I surround myself like guys like Troy, who I talk to on a regular basis. Like, hey, what are you seeing in the industry? What are the trends right now? Is it ACL prevention? Is it PCLs? Right? Is it the VMO? Like, what's going on in the industry that we need to be aware of?
So who all is working in the gyms that you own? Is it any therapist or?
No, I don't have it. We don't have a lot of medical. We do work with some chiropractors
Okay.
that we have right now. We have in Lifetime, we have called Life Clinic. So we engage them sometimes, but mostly what we do is we end up referring a lot of our athletes out.
Yeah.
But we're trying to find a way from us is how to really mesh medical and performance together, because that's the perfect blend right there. It's where we're able to stay in our lane and be the performance coaches, let the medical partners be the medical.
And what we were talking about before we started recording is the real need right now is we have people teaching athletes how to work out and train, healthy athletes. We have physical therapists that are rehabbing our injured athletes, and we have doctors that are taking care of the athletes. But in very few situations do you have all these people under one roof or in one system, so that when you run out of your physical therapy visits 3 months out and you're not returning to the field for another 4, 5, 6 months, you can safely walk into your gym. And I know as a doctor that you're in good hands and you continue to progress, from where the physical therapist dropped off to where the athlete needs to be when they safely return to play.
No, I agree. And I agree. And that's where the industry is going. So, and you look at around the country, these medical companies are spending millions of dollars to make that happen and make that dream into reality. You look in Florida, I think there's a place right now where are they taking the old Dolphin Stadium? They're spending like $80-90 million down there in Miami, doing something down there. And in Minnesota, we have a lot of people here who are, attempting to do the same thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, it's a beautiful story about how you just followed your passion and followed your dream. What was your past as far as athleticism, or were you a college player? Were you a high school player?
Yes. So I ran my thing is track and football. I like to say I'm a track runner first, football player second. I ran track in college my first 2 years and I quit just because I didn't like the way they changed up my form and the coaching. And football, I played for all 4 years. I played outside linebacker. That's the only way I could get to college, man, was a scholarship, man. My mama couldn't afford that, man. So if I didn't get no scholarship, I wasn't going.
Yeah. But I think this is important for athletes to hear because, you finish up 4 years, 2 years, whatever, and you have a degree or you don't have a degree, but you have a specific skill set that you learn from the hours of being on the field and the multitasking of balancing practice with travel and class. Those are things that you might not be able to write on your resume, but they definitely project well to the C-suite. They project well to being a good worker. So I need athletes to hear that you have this skill set that you might not even be aware of, but it can make you a great entrepreneur. It can make you great at whatever your job is later.
I just think that athletes need to understand, like, this more than being a professional athlete. You can still be around sports and be involved in the sporting industry and not have to be the guy on the field or on the basketball court or on the tennis court, right? And, like, even for you, like, you work with athletes all day. We work for athletes all day, right? And
you're
it's
right there with them.
Everything happens, and now, with all this stuff going on with like the new Netflix thing, which was really good, by the way, that quarterbacks one, it's showing that athletes want to get 1% better. If you get an athlete that much better, you're doing your job. We talked today, I was talking to Chris today, you train 8 months to play 4 months, and just sustainability is key, man. So, I give kudos to the people off the field who help these athletes stay on the field.
Yeah. Now it takes a community, it's you need doctors, you need therapists, you need psychiatrists. Athletes are under a lot of pressure to perform every day because you can't slack off, when you have, like you mentioned, you might be carrying a generation on your back. You're probably the first person to go to college or the first person to make it to professional sports. So all of that's in the back of your mind, and that pressure to perform can, for some people be very daunting and even paralyzing.
Yeah, me being older, I'm 43, I'm a father, and it's understanding to meet athletes where they're at and not judge anybody. I don't judge anybody, man. When we get combine guys down here, everybody's coming from all walks of life. And, in our orientation meeting, I talk about, we're a new team and buy-in, right? Because if I can't get you to buy in what I'm trying to do for you, it doesn't matter how we do it, you're not going to do it anyway.
Right. It's
You're not going
multiple
to take it
ways to do
seriously.
it, right?
You know, and we really believe in culture. And like I said, in community, and we're Christians. And I try to show these athletes, men and women, how we do it as minorities. How just because you were raised in a house with no mother, no father, doesn't mean that you can't be one. Doesn't mean
Right.
that you can't be married. Doesn't mean that you can't have kids, and doesn't mean you can't do it the right way. Right? Doesn't mean that you can't save money and be a business owner. You know, you could break those generational curses and do what you need to do for you and your family,
Yeah. Yeah.
and change the
So
trajectory. For years to come.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So timeout with the sports doctor, this is your final timeout. So, thank you, number one, for coming on and sharing your success as well as your failures. And,
Yeah.
game face training, that name alone means more than what I know right now. But just tell us what that means to you and what that'll mean to the athletes that come to work with you.
Game face training is something that you have to wear your whole anywhere you go. You wear it in the office, on the field, when you're at church, when you're in a football game, when you're trying to take a test. You'll always have your game face on. That's why we came up with the name, because it just transcends beyond just training. It's a community, it's an environment, it's a culture, it's a lifestyle. And our other tagline we use is win today, right? Let's focus on today. We can't worry about tomorrow. Today, win today.
Control what you can control. So
That's
tell
it, man.
athletes, tell people how they can follow what you're doing, how they can find you as far as locations of your gyms and everything like that.
We're with Lifetime Fitness right now. We're in Boca Raton, Florida, the Boca Raton Lifetime. In Minnesota, we're in New Hope, Minnesota. Our Instagram is Game Face Training. Our website is gamefacetraining.com. And my personal Instagram is DeVentri, DeVentri Jordan. That's my Instagram. You can hit me up if you got questions about how do I get in the industry? Am I doing the right protocol? What's a day in the life like of being a performance coach? I want to become a better athlete. I want to combine training, NBA pre-draft, anything. You guys can hit me up and ask me any kind of questions you need.
Yeah, and he will respond. I can guarantee you that. It's funny because when I released my episode with Troy,
Yeah.
he immediately reached out and was like, "Look, I'm no Troy Jones, but I know a couple of things and I'm willing to talk to you." So, and
That's
that's
my
how
dog.
that's how it
Yeah.
works. That's how this industry works. That's how podcasting works. That's truly how social media can be used for good, is to
Amen.
connect with people in different walks of life with a common goal, a common philosophy. And you can really, together, collaborations, you can do more than doing it on your own.
For sure. No,
Yeah.
thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it. And I think the next episode, we do is we gotta get me and Troy together. It's
Yeah,
fun.
no, that'll be a blast. Yeah.
Conversations.
I can only
You know,
imagine the energy there. So, yeah.
we talk about protocols. We talk about the industry. We talk about speed progressions and movement
Yeah.
progressions and lifting progressions, equipment. And we ramble off. We'll be talking about how's your family doing. To hey, what's that speed progression? To hey,
Yeah.
what are you eating tonight? You know what I mean?
Right.
We go
Right.
ramble. It's good conversations.
No, that'd be great. A great episode for athletes to tune in to, or
Yeah.
just weekend warriors, anyone about how they want to become better at whatever they're doing. So we'll
Yes,
definitely
sir.
get that together.
All right. Hey, well, thank you for your time, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace.
Time out with the sports doctor. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine